Hello everyone, this is part 10 of What If Naruto Awakened New Skills, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Gaara disappeared in a swirl of sand to reappear in the arena. Naruto decided to just jump in. Not being flashy this match? Asked Gaara. Naruto just smiled, then Hayate stepped in between them. He could see they were ready, so he decided to just get the match underway. The final match between Gaara no Sabaku of Konoha and Naruto Namikaze of Konoha began, he said, dropping his hand and quickly getting out the way. Gaara just looked at Naruto and then got quite a shock. Boo, said Naruto from Gaara's right shoulder. No way, he's so fast, he left an after image, thought Gaara as he turned round to see Naruto standing behind him. In the stands, Lee was watching the match with a mixture of bewilderment and amazement. I'm fast, the sand struggled to keep up with me, but he's moving so fast the sand can't even react to it. He's behind him and the sand hasn't even gotten off the floor, thought Lee. He couldn't even see Naruto move, and he doubted that Guy, Kakashi, or even Sasuke would be able to either. Come on Gaara, it's no fun if you don't try, said Naruto smiling. Gaara smirked. You noticed? Well done, he said. How could I not? I've seen you tap into Shukaku's chakra in training, so I know you can do it, replied Naruto, still smiling. Alright then, let's get this show on the road, said Gaara as he started tapping into Shukaku's chakra. Then the sound of kunai clashing again and again were heard. Only after the three clash had been heard did both boys disappear. The crowd was stunned. It wasn't just Naruto that left an after image this time, it was Gaara as well. They both moved so fast that even Sasuke couldn't get more than a glimpse of them when they stopped for a second to clash. Sasuke, can you see them? Asked Kakashi. Only for a split second when they actually hit, and from what I can tell this is just a warm-up to them, replied Sasuke, shocking everyone except Hinata. Then why did he finish you and Temari so quickly and not do it to now? Asked Sakura. It didn't make sense that the fight that he'd seemed to be waiting for who knows how long, he'd finish in a second and then draw out the last one. The answer to that is simple. He needed to prove to me that I was weak because I chased after strength to get Itachi for vengeance, instead of finding someone to protect and fighting to keep them safe. I know that now. There's also the fact that the only person in the entire stadium that has the chakra reserves to allow Naruto to truly test what he can do is Gaara, as well as he's likely to be the only one who can survive it, explained Sasuke, again shocking everyone. They looked at the arena in awe. If what Sasuke said was true, Naruto and Gaara were hardly trying, and already they made every other ninja in the village look weak. All they lacked was experience. Then something struck Kakashi. If he's gained all the Cubus knowledge, he's got more experience than every person in this stadium combined and then some. The thought was incredible. He was a mere genin just trying to become a Chunin, and he could make the Hokages seem like nothing. As Kakashi watched, the two boys suddenly appeared in the arena as though they hadn't moved. Well, now that was a nice warm-up, wasn't it? Asked Naruto. At this, half of the crowd's eyes shot wide and white and their jaws almost hit the floor. Yes, shall we get serious and take it up a notch now? Replied Gaara, causing the rest of the crowd, bar those that already knew, to have almost the same reaction, except now all of the crowd's jaws had created holes in the floor. Both boys grinned and then vanished again. Sasuke, can you still see them? Asked Sakura. Sasuke looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. The clash of kunai was almost constant this time. No, they're moving far too fast for even my Mangekyo Sharingan to keep up with, he replied. How did you get so strong, Naruto? Thought Sakura. Hinata giggled. What's funny, Hinata? Asked Sakura. Hinata looked at her with a smile on her face. I was a little worried about what the Hyuga elders and other clan members might try and do to Naruto when they found out we were together, but now I really don't think that's going to be a problem. They all know that Gaara and his siblings smashed the record for making it through the Forest of Death for the second test and did so without even getting scratched. They also know the two techniques he used against Sasuke, and to now watch him fighting at this level, even that warm-up that he didn't even seem as if he'd done anything for, I really doubt they'd dare challenge him for fear of him destroying them, she said, and then giggled again. Sakura smiled. She knew she didn't know everything about what Naruto had gone through as a child, but she knew some of it, and she seriously doubted any of the villagers would give him any trouble after this performance. After nearly 5 minutes with nothing but the sound of clashing kunai every second, Naruto and Gaara suddenly reappeared, each flying through hand signs. Then they stopped and cried out the names of their jutsu at the same time. Arke Kirei Jutsu, said Naruto, starting at his feet and moving out across the floor and then upwards into a wall of pure white. Heading for Gaara came something that no one in the crowd had a clue what it was. To the Hyugas, using the Byakugan, it looked to be a sheer mass of solidified chakra. Kaken Sabaku Hissen Jutsu, said Gaara. From Gaara's side of the field came a huge amount of sand focused into 2 attacks, one on each side of him. The 2 immense attacks collided in the middle and blew up. It took several minutes for the smoke to clear, but when it finally did, they could see Naruto standing over the prone form of Gaara, holding one wakizashi to his T and the other to his C. Naruto looked over to Hayate to signal for him to call the match. Hayate looked down at Gaara. Gaara just nodded calmly and Hayate raised his hand. Winner Naruto Namikaze, he said. A few small pockets of the crowd were cheering. Minato was clapping, but the crowd en masse was silent. They couldn't believe the boy was so powerful. Naruto sheathed his weapons and reached out his hand to help Gaara up. Gaara looked exhausted, he was struggling to stand. Naruto, on the other hand, still looked like he hadn't done anything. It was very apparent to all present that Naruto had hardly touched his chakra reserves and was in fact far more powerful than he'd appeared to be. Even now, Naruto then created 2 shadow clones. One took Gaara to his siblings and stayed talking with them. The second went and told Hashi that he would be over later to speak with himself and the Hyuga elders. Hashi replied that he should come over in around 2 hours. The clone then dispersed. The real Naruto then appeared next to Hinata, who threw her arms around him and kissed him full on the lips. Well done, Naruto, she said happily. Naruto felt a tap on his shoulder and turned to see Sasuke. Tell me, Naruto, how much of your chakra reserves have these matches taken out of you? He asked. Naruto smiled with his trademark grin. I say around 1,000, he replied. Sasuke could tell he wasn't lying because of the Sharingan, but Kiba, Ino and Sakura turned to Kakashi, Asuma and Guy. Is that true? Asked Kiba. I couldn't really tell you, said Kakashi. I can't say I've noticed his chakra drop at all since the first match, he said, causing all 3 of the Genins' mouths, as well as the surrounding spectators, jaws to plummet through the floor. They turned to look at Naruto, who was still smiling, and all 3 had basically the same thought going through their head. Then exactly how bloody strong is he? But none were quite sure how to ask. Minato then appeared in the arena. Sasuke Uchiha, Shino Aburame and Kankuro no Sabaku, please come to the arena now, he said. Shino and Kankuro just jumped in the arena, but Sasuke was still weak. I'll help you, said Naruto, supporting his weight. Thanks, Naruto, said Sasuke. It was one thing to appear weak, but it was another altogether to run the risk of serious injury when you could hardly stand. Naruto and Sasuke then vanished and reappeared in the arena. Now then, as 2 of you were unable to battle and the other was unable to display their skills, and apparently that was what the other cages and the Daimais particularly wanted to see, it has been agreed that the 3 of you will take part in exhibition matches as a second chance. Your opponents will be selected at random now from the Leaf Genin that didn't initially make it to this part of the exam but did make it to the tower, said Minato as the board behind him started running through names. After 20 seconds the first 2 names came up. Sasuke Uchiha will face Kiba Inuzuka, said Minato. Then the board started flashing through names again before stopping again. Shino Aburame will face Choji Akamaiki, said Minato, and once again the board started flashing through names again. Finally, Kankuro no Sabaku will face Hinata Hyuga. As Sasuke is currently incapable of fighting, the matches will be held here tomorrow, he said. Naruto was ecstatic. He knew that this meant Hinata now had a chance of promotion. Around an hour later, Naruto was sitting with Hinata on top of his father's head. Man, that's going to take some getting used to, he thought. Talking with her, he suddenly felt a little dizzy as he got a rush of knowledge from the clone he'd left with Gaara. Temari and Kankuro, it had talked with them for a good 3/4 of an hour and then taken Kankuro and Gaara to Ichirakis and then left to take Temari to meet Sasuke. After it had introduced them to each other and then talked with them a while, it had dispersed and Naruto suddenly fell back laughing hard, much to Hinata's surprise. At first she thought it was something she had said. What's so funny, Naruto? She said, sounding a little upset. Naruto quickly quieted down when he realized she thought he was laughing at her. Can you imagine Sasuke stuttering and blushing the way you used to around me? He asked. At first she thought that he hadn't been paying attention to her. Were you even listening to me? She asked, getting a little angry and quite upset. Naruto realized he needed to explain. Of course Shinju, but the clone I left talking with Gaara. Temari and Kankuro took Gaara and Kankuro to Ichirakis and then took Temari to meet Sasuke. When it introduced them, Sasuke and Temari both blushed, and it then spent 15 minutes talking to them as Temari seemed to become quite shy, and every time Sasuke tried to talk to her he stuttered and fidgeted. Temari was only giving more than one-word answers when she had to and was practically whispering the whole time, said Naruto. Hinata then got the mental image of the state the two were in and then fell back laughing as Naruto went into a second fit of laughter recalling the actual event. After around 40 minutes and around a dozen wisecracks about the incident from Naruto, each sending both himself and Hinata back into another fit of laughter, they finally calmed down enough for Naruto to realize that he had arranged to see Hashi and the Hyuga elders in 20 minutes' time. He told Hinata and she was confused. Why do you want to speak to my father and the elders? She asked. That is a surprise I'm sure you'll love, replied Naruto, standing up and reaching out his hand to help the Hyuga heiress up. They then jumped down from the monument and headed in the direction of the Hyuga compound across the rooftops, holding hands on the way. They arrived 15 minutes later and walked through the gates. The guards had very obviously either seen the fights or heard about them, and the fear in their eyes was evident. They walked up to the room that they knew Hashi would be in and knocked on the door. Enter, came Hashi's voice from the other side. Naruto slid the door to the right and let Hinata through before walking in himself and sliding the door shut behind himself. Around the sides of the room sat the Hyuga elders and at the end sat Hashi. Naruto and Hinata walked in front of Hashi and knelt down before Hashi spoke. Naruto, now what was it you wanted to discuss with myself and the elders? Asked Hashi, already having a good idea of both what Naruto intended to ask and why he would wish the elders assembled to ask it. I'm here to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, replied Naruto calmly. Immediately one of the elders spoke out. You have no right to ask for her hand in marriage, and we would not consent to such a weakling being married to the heiress, he said, his voice dripping with malice. Hinata was about to scream at him that Naruto was more powerful than any of them ever were, but Naruto put his hand on her shoulder, and when she looked at him he shook his head before he spoke to them. I had expected you would say that, and I also realized that even if I had made arrangements with Hashi without informing you, you would have simply arranged her marriage to the person you wanted and pushed it through before I was able to arrange to marry her. So I thought about it and made a decision. I will fight all of you at the same time. If I win, Hinata is free to marry me or anyone else she chooses to. If I lose, then you can have her marry whoever you choose, said Naruto. The elders smiled evilly. They thought without the Byakugan he would quickly lose fighting all of them at once. Very well, we accept your terms, said one. At that point Minato and Sarutobi stepped out from behind Hashi. Naruto motioned for Hinata to go and stand beside their fathers, and she did. She was smiling a little. She knew Naruto would lay waste to them without even trying. Naruto himself stood up, moved to the center of the room and closed his eyes, activating his Fuengan. After he had done so, the elders were surprised to see their Hokage and former Hokage there. Lord Hokage, Lord Sarutobi, why are you here? Asked one of them. It was Sarutobi who replied. We are here to ensure that you will hold true to the agreement you have made with Naruto. Should you fail to, you will find yourselves behind bars awaiting execution for treason, as I could have done on many occasions during my term of office. You will not get out of this if you lose, he said, careful to keep his emotions in check and his face expressionless despite knowing that the Hyuga elders were drastically overconfident and hopelessly outmatched against the boy. Very well, we won't be losing anyway, said another as they stood up and encircled the boy. Then two of them charged at him, one from directly in front and the other directly behind. Their feet moving in perfect unison so that only one set of footfalls could be heard. When they got within striking distance of Naruto, they both suddenly flew back into the walls behind them. Naruto, however, didn't look to have moved. Again and again from every direction the 20 Hyuga elders attacked Naruto, who never seemed to move. Most were unconscious with the first strike. Of the 10 that were still conscious, 5 hadn't attacked yet. 1 had a broken leg, 2 had a broken arm, and the last 2 had broken ribs. The 2 with broken arms and the 2 with broken ribs got up and moved to encircle Naruto a second time, only to fall down when they got to the circle, red welts appearing on the sides of their faces. Naruto still didn't look to have moved. he hadn't even opened his eyes. One of the remaining 5 was getting pissed off thinking Naruto was pulling some sort of trick on them. How have you taken them all down when you haven't even moved? You've cheated somehow, he said, his voice laced with so much malice that most genin and many chunin would have been scared. Naruto, however, just opened his eyes and watched as the old man fell over in sheer shock. We never stood a chance. He's using the Fuengen, he said, his voice now laced with fear instead of malice. The 2 standing behind him thought it was some sort of genjutsu he'd cast on the other member. As they went to strike him, he just moved fluidly round the attacks and swiftly closed most of the chakra points in their arms and several of those in the top of their legs, causing them to fall. How did you do that? Only the Byakugan can see the chakra points, said one of them, hitting the chakra points in his legs to reopen them. The Byakugan isn't the only bloodline that can see the chakra points, and I use the other one, the Fuengen, said Naruto nonchalantly before looking the elder in the eyes. The next moment the elder fell down unconscious. He won't be getting up again, said Naruto like it was nothing. What did you do to him? Demanded the other elder as he opened the chakra points in his arm. I just gave him a taste of what it was like for me growing up. Nothing too serious, he just felt what it was like for me in one of the milder attacks, explained Naruto as though it was nothing. The 2 still in front of him and the 2 standing behind him all charged at him from opposite directions at the same time. Naruto just stood there. As soon as they were about to hit him, he vanished and they instead hit each other. What the? How did he trick the Byakugan with an illusion? Asked one of the 3 still standing, the 4th having been rendered unconscious by the punch. I didn't. I couldn't use that basic technique to save my life, not that I've ever needed to, said Naruto like the whole world should know it. Then how did you become a genin then? Asked one of them, thinking they might have some way to prevent him becoming a chunin at least and maybe get him sent back to the academy. By learning this, said Naruto, putting his hands in the familiar cross sign and creating 3 shadow clones. The elders were in shock, they couldn't perform that technique. You were in the exams, weren't you? Asked one, apparently having not attended himself and looking at the chakra in the 3 clones and Naruto himself. Yep, I won the final match. Why? Asked Naruto, smiling. He could guess what was going on in the elder's head. Then how can you have enough chakra to make even 1 clone after that and then all this? He said, his entire body shaking and his face going white. I've hardly used any chakra. I could redo this entire day 6 times before I'd even start to notice my chakra levels dropping, said Naruto, smirking at the reaction of the other 2 elders as they barely avoided fainting as the 3rd did so. You win. We can't even get close to hitting you, and trying to dodge 3 shadow clones as well, we would have no chance, said one of the 2. The other hung his head knowing what he'd said was true. Excellent. So then Hinata, Naruto, I'm happy to say that you are now engaged, said Hashi. Naruto dispersed his clones, stepped forward and bowed to Hashi. Thank you, Hashi, he said, and when he raised himself back up, one of the Hyuga elders tried to hit him in the Byakugan's blind spot, but Naruto just vanished to reappear behind him holding a kunai to his T. I've good enough reason to S your T right now in self-defense. After all, it's likely that attack would have at least paralyzed me or could even have K me. But fortunately for both of us, the Fuengen lacks the blind spot that the weaker Byakugan possess, he said, smirking at the elder who had become paralyzed in fear before removing the kunai and returning it to its holster on his leg. Despite knowing that Naruto was going to be fine in the fight after seeing him nearly hurt so badly and then the shock of actually being engaged to Naruto finally hitting her, Hinata did something she hadn't for over a week. She fainted. Around an hour later Hinata came round. Initially she was a little sacred. She didn't immediately recognize her surroundings, but after a moment she realized she was in Naruto's room lying on his bed. As she came round she noticed a faint smell of cooking. As she looked towards the door she noticed it was closed. She got up, walked over and opened it. Her nose was immediately assaulted with the smell of duck and plum. After Naruto had tasted it when they went after Tsunade, he'd taken something of a liking to it, knowing that it was better than just eating ramen, so he'd learned to cook it. As she walked the short distance she heard people talking in the front room which adjoined directly to Naruto's kitchen. She walked in to see Naruto standing in the kitchen sorting out a pan on the stove and Sasuke and Temari sitting on his sofa talking. Hey Shinju, sleep well? Asked Naruto without turning around. Temari and Sasuke then turned to look at her in the doorway. She was wearing a red t-shirt with the black skull and kunai crossed like the bones on a Jolly Roger on it and a pair of baggy navy blue jeans. It wasn't that she still tried to hide her figure, in fact she had gained the confidence to go out wearing a tight t-shirt and jean shorts that cut off halfway down her thigh even in Konoha, she just preferred the style and felt comfortable in them. Naruto had actually bought her 6 of each so that she could wear them as much as she wanted, she even kept a set at his flat so she could get changed after training without having to carry them with her all day. Naruto had decided that whilst it would be nice to move into the Namikaze mansion with his father, it would have to wait till after the Chunin exams at the earliest, and now that he and Hinata were engaged, he had contemplated asking if she would like to move in with him. Sasuke had also asked if he could move in whilst Hinata had been unconscious, as he no longer wished to live alone and he was now willing to admit that Naruto was like a brother to him. In fact, he had been heard on a couple of occasions no less than an hour and a half after the exams had finished saying that Naruto was more like a brother to him than Itachi ever had been. The news had slowly been getting round Konoha that even if Naruto would not lift a hand against a civilian aggressor, there were plenty of other people who would do it if they found out, and many of them had eyes and ears in the gossip channels of Konoha, namely Sasuke after talking to Sakura and Ino, both of whom had been willing to give him the information knowing that Naruto was their friend and if someone had hurt him they were going to help Sasuke get them back. There was also a hint that for some, who had repeatedly called him a demon, he would be talking to Naruto and taking a page out of the Prank Master from Hell's books to get them back. Some people had apparently already had to have one-to-one healing sessions with Tsunade after being brought in after being attacked for hurting the Hokage's son, who had apparently come out saying that their condition was such they would have to stay in at least a few days and needed at least one more healing session, and in one particular case too. "Hey Hinata, come and have a seat and chat," said Temari warmly with a smile on her face. "Yeah, come on, we were just talking to Naruto about the best way to get revenge on a couple of people who don't call him anything other than a demon," said Sasuke. Hinata was shocked to hear this as she walked over and took a seat on the other sofa in the room. "You aren't going to hurt them, are you?" she asked worried. Whilst she didn't like people referring to Naruto like that, but she also didn't think they deserved to be hurt for it. "Shinju, do you remember the other name that people had for me during our academy days?" asked Naruto with a mischievous tone to his voice. Hinata thought back but really could only remember them calling him either demon or monster. "Do you mean monster?" she asked, hoping she was wrong. Naruto laughed lightly at her comment. "I suppose that's loosely right. They didn't call me that because of Akahito though. Do you remember a certain incident that had the whole village in an uproar and no one was sure who had done it for about 3 hours?" he asked. He was pretty sure she would know what he was on about. "Do you mean when you painted the Hokage monument?" she asked. Temari's jaw dropped before she started laughing hard. "You managed to paint the Hokage monument and get away with it for 3 hours?" she asked finally after stopping laughing. Naruto turned around and smiled, showing Hinata that his Fuengan was active, which was how he knew she was at the door. "Yep. And after that those that didn't hate me came up with a slightly different name for me and then a nickname for it. At first I had thought they had started to see me the same as the rest of the village, then the old man explained that they were using it as a quick form of my other nickname which I was quite proud of and still am for that matter. They called me the Prank Master from Hell." Sasuke was thinking about pulling out some tricks from that bag since the village has gotten off without any for quite a while, explained Naruto. Something else struck Hinata's mind though. "What did your dad say when he found out you'd painted the Hokage monument?" she asked, now happy that they weren't going to hurt anyone. "Damn, I wish I'd thought of that. He was also a little upset and very proud that I'd stolen his lure of the Prank Master from Hell," said Naruto smiling. He then turned back to the cooking and started putting the food on plates. Then there was a knock on the door and he moved to go and answer it. "I'll get you finished sorting out the food," said Hinata walking to the door. She opened it to find her father and the 4th Hokage standing there. "Lord Hokage, father, please come in, but why are you here?" she asked, a little concerned that they would come here. "Please Hinata, call me Minato, we're practically family now and don't worry, we've just come to inform you of a good thing," said Minato stepping in followed by Hashi taking their shoes off and moving into the front room with Hinata following after closing the front door. "Lord Hokage," said Sasuke and Temari at the same time and quickly standing up and bowing to him. "Please you too, I know Naruto sees you as a brother Sasuke, which makes you almost family, and Temari, you are the daughter of the 4th Kazekage, you need not extend such formalities to me," said Minato. "Hey Dad, Hashi, what brings you here?" Asked Naruto, look at them and smiling. Just thought you and Hinata would be interested to know that the moment you two got together you were engaged and Hinata was forever safe from the Hyuga elders arranging a marriage for her. Even if they had arranged it and carried it through without Hashi knowing, it would instantly be annulled when he found out, because Hashi and myself had always intended for you and Hinata to get together at one point or another, whether by your own choice or at our request, because we put together our own arranged marriage for the two of you before you were born, said Minato, then giving him a moment to sit down so that they could take the information in before he continued. Naruto, your mother found an old law passed by the first that allowed the head of the clan to create an arranged marriage without the consent of the clan elders, and all of the terms and conditions written in the contract at its creation would be the primary contract and could not be overridden by the clan elders. In our case, we decided that we would do two things. Since neither the Namikas or the Uzumaki clans had elders, we didn't have to worry, but the Hyuga clan elders were a problem, so we wrote it into the contract that you two could only come together of your own free will. Minato paused for a moment. It was a lot of information and he knew there was more to come. After a few moments he continued. We also gave careful consideration to the fact that unless we put something into the contract, if the Hyuga elders ever found out you two had gotten together, they might immediately try to marry Hinata in secret so that nothing could come of it. So we wrote it into the contract that as long as the two of you got together at some point, whether you stayed together or not, Hinata could never be put into any other arranged marriage, thus keeping her safe from the moment you two got together, explained Minato. After he finished, the room sat in silence for a moment before there was a thud as Naruto stopped beside Hinata and stopped her from falling off the chair, having fainted with a happy smile on her face. As the information had formed together in her mind, it had made it seem to her as though she and Naruto had been destined to be together. That was a far better reaction than I had expected. I thought she wouldn't get all of it and would end up ranting about being put in an arranged marriage, said Hashi. I can't exactly say I'm happy about being party to an arranged marriage, but I can't really argue about it because of the reasons and that at least it was written in that we had a choice, replied Naruto. No one was particularly surprised to hear this, knowing that he hated any attempts to control him. The next morning Naruto was still contemplating if he should ask Hinata to move in or if he should let Sasuke. He had also given consideration to asking Hinata to move in and stay in his room whilst Sasuke moved into the other bedroom, but was a little worried that that could be awkward, as if the relationship moved in a certain direction, it could get a little noise during and thus rather uncomfortable after the event. He knew that this was going to need a lot of consideration. He decided that whilst he could speak to his dad about it, he would be better off talking to Jiraiya, as at least Jiraiya was likely to have a trick or two to minimize any foreseeable problems. His musings took up the entire walk from his flat to the Hyuga compound. When he arrived, the guards gave their congratulations and seemed very friendly towards him. He walked into the main room where he had agreed to meet Hashi and found him sitting in the center of the room. I guess the whole clan now knows that me and Hinata are engaged, he said. It was a statement rather than a question. Yes, I've also been able to remove all of their caged bird seals. Thanks to you. After I spoke with you last night, I came back to find that despite the warnings, the council had tried to arrange a very hasty marriage. It would seem they had already begun arranging it when they first discovered that you and Hinata were together. But they had forgotten that the law states that if they try and go against an arranged marriage contract formed under the first law, they can automatically be branded traitors to Konoha because they potentially weaken the clan. You see, an unhappy marriage will lead to few to no children, so it puts the clan at risk. However, a happy one will increase the chances of children tenfold because the couple is more likely to want them, explained Hashi. Then he had an afterthought of something else he thought Naruto should know. You may also be interested to know that since you are the last wielder of the Fuengan, the council was very interested in ensuring you had at least one heir, and after it was explained that unless it would be with Hinata, the chances of you being willing to find a partner and have an heir with were slim to non-existent, and this put your bloodline at risk. Particularly as your father made it clear that he would not arrange a marriage for you, and the only way you would be getting married was if both you and the girl wanted it. There are plenty of girls that would like the chance with you, but you only have eyes for Hinata. So a law passed by the second designed to prevent clan elders from causing a second bloodline to go extinct because they didn't want a member of their clan marrying that particular person was called upon, which carries a death sentence. Both your father and myself thought that it was too light for the Hyuga elders, so with the backing of the council they have been put behind bars for the rest of their lives, he explained. So how has that let you remove the seals? asked Naruto. He still hadn't explained that part and it was confusing him. There is a Hyuga clan law that cannot be revoked created by the head during the time of the first. Where if any member of the clan elders council is convicted of a crime that can be sentenced by the council of Konoha, they immediately lose their position amongst the elders council and the clan head. In this case myself, selects their replacement to ensure that they don't not choose someone who will do what they want. And since the entire council was convicted at the same time, I was able to choose an entirely new council that would better suit today's Konoha and would have equal interest in the clans and the individual's well-being. Meaning that Neji has also been able to get with Tenten finally, and I understand that Hanabi has taken something of an interest in a young friend of yours by the name of Konohamaru, and much to my surprise one of his friends Miyogi. At this piece of information Naruto almost fell over. Knowing full well Miyogi was the only female member of the Konohamaru corps, Hashi smiled when he saw Naruto's reaction. So you're telling me that, said Naruto, not entirely wanting to finish the sentence. Yes, it would seem that young Hanabi has no particular preference to the gender of her partner. Or in this case it may be partners, which I have to say I'm fine with. Her mother was that way inclined as well, and whilst we were unable to do anything about it, we hoped that when Hinata took my place she would be able to. The first 3 acts a new clan head makes cannot be blocked by the council and cannot be overturned by a council vote. Only a new head can overturn them as one of their first 3 acts. We weren't sure if either girl would follow after their mother. I may be able to sort it out ahead though. When more than half the council is changed at one time they can overturn one previous act, but only if the decision is unanimous. If even one votes against they can't, but I don't see that being a problem. I know Hinata will quite happily disband the seal tradition, or more precisely you will, the moment you take my place, said Hashi smiling happily. I certainly will. I may not know what it's like to feel the effects of the caged bird seal, but I do know what the effects that having a seal and being considered a lesser being because of it feel like. Thank you for giving me that information, Hashi, said Naruto, bowing low to show his grade. Both Naruto and Hashi knew that it wasn't necessary as a formality anymore, so when it was used both knew it was as a sign of grade or respect rather than a mandatory bow of respect. It was now always earned and never given freely. The pair small talked for another 5 minutes about the matches and who they expected to win, at least in regards to Sasuke and Shino's matches. They did speak about Hinata's match, feeling very confident that Hinata would not have the same problem she had in the preliminaries. Then Hinata walked into the room. Good morning Shinju, looking forward to your match? Asked Naruto. Hashi smiled at the pet name Naruto had given Hinata. Yes I am, and I intend to win, said Hinata, returning the embrace Naruto gave her. All 3 then left for the stadium. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.